Hello, Safin here. Today I went to see Captain America: A Brave New World. It's the latest from Disney's Marvel and continues the Captain America franchise with Sam Wilson holding the shield for his first film. Directed by Julius Onah, this film stars Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford, and Danny Ramirez. Okay, so what is it? It's a fantasy action film with a bit of a spy thriller theme. The story follows Sam Wilson attending a White House party after a successful mission. The president gets up to speak at the event, and a bunch of sleeper agents try to assassinate him. This causes an international incident which Sam and his new sidekick Joaquin Torres head off to investigate. The film follows Wilson and Torres as they beat up henchmen, listen to supervillain monologues, and take on foreign militaries. Along the way, we learn about the mysterious villain and his plan. We also learn a bunch of new stuff about the Celestial that appeared in the ocean, which is a big deal if you've seen the Eternals, but if you haven't, don't worry about it. It's not that important. Alright, to be upfront with you, this film is kind of boring. At least I found it boring. The story, the characters, there's just nothing all that interesting to latch onto here. The movie also isn't a masterpiece of filmmaking. It's another mass-produced CGI fest. If that's what you're into, this movie is okay. It's good enough to get you through an afternoon and not feel too bored. If you're not into big CGI monsters fighting little CGI men, then this movie is probably going to bore you to death. It's all exposition, action, and graphics. That said, let's go over the film's positives. Its story is simple and easy to follow. The cast does an okay job of their roles with a few exceptional moments. There's also some fun visuals if you don't mind CGI. The story is a simple mystery that starts with an inciting incident. We're given just enough information to get us interested in events, and then the film takes off. We rush through a simple mystery, and then Sam and Torres take on a dangerous event, and finally the film caps off with a big fight between two heavy hitters. There's long monologues of exposition to explain exactly what's going on, and the characters even repeat that information to really ensure that you're thoroughly beaten over the head with it. It's basically impossible to not understand the story and what's happening. The cast does what they can with the material, and it leads to a lot of okay performances. Most of what they're doing is exposition work with a little bit of character development and action posing. There's a lot of grim attitudes with stern faces and action hero fighting. Anthony Mackie and Danny Torres also get to do a bit of a buddy superhero thing, and it kind of works for most of the film and then really clicks in the final moments. They joke around, fight together, and have heart-to-heart conversations. For the top performance, you have Danny Torres. He ends up creating the most memorable moment during his final scene with Sam. He gives a heartfelt speech about his past that's a bit of a tearjerker, and his expressive work in that moment is fantastic. Visually, the film looks like a basic spy thriller with big action moments that feels like they're ripped right out of a war film. The characters run around between a bunch of fancy-looking locations to talk to different people. They fight a few henchmen for a little bit, and then move on to the next location. There's lots of rehashing of Captain America's fighting style, with a slight remix coming from Sam's new gear. The fight scenes come often and involve a lot of hand-to-hand combat and scenes of Sam and Joaquin flying through the air using their wingsuits. Later in the film, there's also a big special appearance from the Red Hulk that turns into a big monster movie-style destruction of Washington. The fights are filled with CGI. That's okay. It's not the best looking material, but it works for this type of film. Which brings me to the negatives. The story is so boring and the characters barely developed. It's boring because the mystery is so simple a child could see through it, and there's never really any sense of danger. Sam and Torres handle every challenge with ease, and it isn't until much later in the film that anyone even gets hurt. When Torres is eventually taken out of the fight, he never seems to be in serious condition, and his fate is never in question. They also never develop either Sam or Torres beyond what's already established. For their attempt at juicy drama, they rehash Sam's identity crisis that he went through in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then they go through all of the tired new sidekick tropes. Most of it falls flat, and there's no real reason to continue watching aside from the big fight at the end. While most of the cast's performances were fine, there's a few people like Harrison Ford that are clearly phoning it in. I'll pick on Ford because he's the oldest and probably the best paid. Harrison Ford is called to play Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, and plays him differently from past incarnations. Instead of being a gruff general with stones of steel, he's a doddering old man trying to show compassion for the first time. He keeps blabbering about his failed relationship with his daughter and his regrets, and eventually gets manipulated into becoming the Red Hulk. Ford delivers the lines like he's actively trying to remember them at any given moment, and puts so little effort into his delivery that he just comes across as bored. His entire performance seems kind of lazy. Finally, the soundtrack is the ultimate Marvel slop. It uses orchestral instrumentals that add a lot of patriotism and heroic feeling to the movie and layers them over everything. They drown out emotion, dialogue, and even a lot of the flavor. The music essentially acts as white noise that helps fill out the scenery. It's distracting, it isn't enjoyable to listen to, and it is so generic that you'll forget it in seconds. Honestly, the film would have been better without it. Personally, I wasn't all that interested in this film, and I probably won't watch it again. It's a standard superhero film that stretches the bounds of what humans are capable of and involves a lot of mindless action. It delivers on the mindless action, but tries to use a story vehicle that's completely barren of parts. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 5 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye!